Good evening. Welcome to Kent County Levy Court. Today is Tuesday, October 26, 2021. We're in Kent County Levy Court Chambers, room 203. I'm Terry Pepper, the president of Levy Court. And before we open the business meeting, I'll turn it over to the county administrator to explain how this will be done over the phone or via WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. President. This meeting is being conducted at the Levy Court Chamber, 555 Bay Road in Dover, and we are also making it available to visitors via WebEx through the internet. And for those folks who may be joining us via WebEx, just a few words of instruction. There'll be opportunity throughout the course of the meeting at various junctures for public comment, and we will receive comments from those gathered here in person first for any particular item, followed by anyone who wishes to address the matter before Levy Court via WebEx. And at the time, we will provide some instruction to those callers. But for now, I will inform you, if you're on WebEx, that the *3 function on your mobile device will raise an electronic hand, which will alert us that you're interested in addressing Levy Court. *6 on your mobile device will unmute or mute your device. And if you're on a computer, a desktop or laptop, during WebEx, you'll see the icons for the raise hand symbol and the mute unmute button, and act accordingly at the appropriate times. And we'll remind our guests throughout the course of the meeting of those instructions. This is an official business meeting of the Levy Court. As such, the meeting is being recorded. We ask that all persons addressing Levy Court please precede your comments by stating your name and address for the record and being sworn in by our county attorney prior to delivering any comments. And we are following the Levy Court business meeting rules of procedure as well as the Mason's rules of order for this meeting. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, in case you missed a sign that's on the doors, please turn your cell phones either off or put them on vibrate. Please, no food. And if you have a hat, please remove your hat. Thank you. This time I'll come to order. I'll ask Commissioner Howell for the invocation. Commissioner Buxton, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. A moment of silence for troops and first responders. Commissioner Sweeney. All rise.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for being here with us tonight. We pray that all of our proceedings will be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty, protecting and fighting for our freedoms. We also honor all first responders and medical staff who have succumbed to COVID-19 virus complications contracted through close interaction with infected patients, losing their lives caring for others. As of today, more than 739,000 Americans, 2,064 in Delaware, 440 in Kent County have lost their lives to COVID. Also, across the United States, COVID is now the leading cause of death among law enforcement officers. Please remember all these individuals who died in the line of duty, as well as keeping their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved one. Trooper Ted Bend from the Iowa State Patrol in Iowa, Honorary Chief Nicholas Prioli from the Jackson Township Volunteer Fire Company in New Jersey, and Captain Darcy Stallings from the Yuma Volunteer Fire Department in Colorado. Thank you. You're seated.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Mr. Naka, can I have roll call, please, to determine quorum?
Mr. Angel,
Present.
Mr. Buxton,
Present.
Mr. Hall,
Present.
Mr. Howell,
Here.
Mrs. Maston,
Present.
Mr. Sweeney,
Here.
Mr. Pepper.
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. I need a motion for the adoption of tonight's agenda.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Masson to approve tonight's agenda. Can I roll call on that, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Tonight's agenda has been approved. Need a motion on the consent agenda 21-10.
Move to approve consent agenda 21-10, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Angel to approve the consent agenda. Can I roll call on that, please?
Mr. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Buxton,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mrs. Maston,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. The consent agenda for this evening has been approved. First item on the agenda is a presentation for Employee of the Month for November.
Kent County Department heads have selected Cameron A. Moss Jr. from the Department of Public Safety as the November 2021 Employee of the Month. Cameron currently serves as a Dispatcher 3 in the Emergency Communications Division and began his career as a Dispatcher 1 in February 2010. He was later promoted to Dispatcher 2 and then to his current shift leader position in February 2021. His primary duties include taking numerous emergency and non-emergency calls, determining the exact location of the emergency incident, and dispatching the proper response agency and equipment, as well as dispatching additional fire equipment or personnel when circumstances require. He also helps operate and maintain the Kent County Mobile Command Post. Cameron completed the Part 107 pilot certification process through the Federal Aviation Administration in 2019 and became the county's first commercially licensed remote pilot. Since the drone program's implementation, he has been instrumental in the development of procedures for the drone team to ensure safe and effective operation. He also maintains the county's aircraft to keep it in flight-worthy condition and has trained multiple remote pilots within the organization to a proficient and mission-ready status. According to Chief Colin Faulkner, Cameron's expertise and assistance made it possible for us to launch the Kent County Drone Program, and we fully support his goal to make the drone team a pivotal and crucial asset in protecting the citizens of the county for years to come. And like many of his co-workers, he is a volunteer firefighter, EMT, and has served as an officer in the Little Creek Fire Company. He is certainly deserving of recognition as Employee of the Month. Congratulations, Cameron, on a job well done. And he resides in Commissioner Angel's and Pepper's districts. The tribute reads, Kent County Levy Court, November 2021 Employee of the Month, Cameron A. Moss Jr. On this, the 26th day of October 2021, the Levy Court of Kent County, State of Delaware, does hereby recognize Cameron A. Moss Jr., Dispatcher 3, Department of Public Safety, Emergency Communications Division, for his exceptional initiative, dedication, and conscientiousness in the delivery of services to the citizenry of the county.
Thank you. Is Cameron here? Come on down. Chief, you might want to come on down too. Let's go down and congratulate our Employee of the Month. Congratulations. Yeah, where are you going? Cameron, I'm particularly happy to see someone from our public safety office being coming in as our Employee of the Month. I realize how difficult your job is. A lot of people don't. And you never know what's going to come in on the phone, how prepared you have to be. And also, I'm impressed that what you've been doing with the drone as well. And getting that program off the ground, so to speak. So congratulations. Keep up the great job. And hopefully we'll continue to have a parade of public safety employees come through before us. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Cameron, I've known you for a while, so. But I feel like you're our $6 million man. EMT, dispatcher, the drone program, the Little Creek the fire company. So whatever you keep on doing, you're going to be definitely impressed. We're impressed, but we want to try and get the younger people to come on board too, because it's getting harder for you all, and I've seen that there. So we need people like you to stand up and actually get that going again. I'm just going to put a bug in your ear because I know you guys are struggling with that, but you keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Congratulations on a job well done.
That was good. Yeah, outstanding job, man. Appreciate you being here, and kudos to everything Commissioner Angel stated. Thank you.
Cameron, you come to work every day, you make a positive impact in a lot of people, not just the ones who dial 911, but for our own staff as well. You excel in literally everything that you do, so it's no secret to me or to our staff that you would excel at the drone program. You're the heart and soul of that program, and we really appreciate everything you've done to keep it up and running. Appreciate what you do every single day, and this is our way of just letting you know that we all notice, and thank you very much. Okay.
Cameron, congratulations. All the accolades for being a dispatcher and taking calls and how you help the community are great. As a drone operator, I would never call myself a pilot because I've had to replace too many blades, have had to climb on top of my house to get my drone back because that's where it died. So I understand. Congratulations on that program. People just don't understand the value that it'll bring to our Kent County Air Force. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a tough job very often. It's just not recognized, but we appreciate you doing such an excellent job and recognizing you tonight.
Well, Cameron, public safety is so critical to this county, every one of our citizens, and appreciate you going above and beyond with the drone program and all that you do with that, because it's just, such a force multiplier. So thanks very much.
Hey, Cameron, congratulations on behalf of your fellow county employees. Outstanding job. I understand you like to go fishing in your off time. Is that right? How's the fishing been? How's the catching been? Well, I think we all say that you're a keeper here. So congratulations on a job well done, and so glad you're being recognized.
Thank you. Cameron?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity for me to turn, which has been a hobby for the last almost 30 years of my life into something that I can make productive for the county and, keep moving forward with. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We appreciate you, and we'll get a picture with your tribute here. Okay, this time we'll open our public hearings. First item is the Stormwater Maintenance District, falls under Commissioner Howell. It's Resolution 3902. Commissioner Howell, and I see Ms. Kiefer's at the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before we start the hearings, just a word about how these hearings will be conducted. This public hearing is being conducted for the purpose of giving the citizens of the county the opportunity to present testimony on the applications before the Levy Court. Everyone will have a chance to speak. All statements are to be made from the podium at the front of the room. For the record, please give your name and address. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification and inclusion in the record. For each application before the Levy Court, the President will introduce the application. Then the Levy Court will take testimony from all of those in favor. Testimony will then be received from those who may be opposed. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the hearing on the application will be closed, and the Levy Court will take what action it deems appropriate. The Levy Court's decision will be based upon public hearing testimony given at this meeting and a recommendation submitted to the Levy Court by the Regional Planning Commission. I would ask that that recommendation be included by reference in the permanent record of the meeting established by the Clerk of the Peace. The public notice of this hearing was published in the October 8th, 2021 edition of the Delaware State News. And the first item before the Levy Court is Resolution 3902, adding Quail's Nest to the Stormwater Maintenance District. A majority of the lot owners signed the petition in the affirmative, and those signatures have been verified. The maintenance plan has been finalized, and the annual fee adopted for this fiscal year is $28 per parcel. You'll notice that the resolution has one extra element in it for this subdivision. There's a portion of the subdivision that isn't finished yet, and that actually contains a stormwater maintenance pond. So what the Conservation District has asked is that the resolution include language calling for a bond to be put up of $10,000 to make sure that as that portion of the subdivision is completed, the pond can be put to right before it's finished. So it meets all of the criteria to join the district. Staff recommends approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Kiefer? Seeing none, thank you. At this time, we'll ask anyone in the audience that is here in favor of Resolution 3902, Stormwater Maintenance District, to please come forward and offer testimony as to why we should approve it. Anyone here in favor, please come forward. And please give your name and address and then be sworn or affirmed.
My name is Corey Crawford. Address is 62 Calvert Court, Dover, Delaware, 19904.
Mr. Crawford, good evening, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
What was your first name, please?
Corey, Corey. Yes. So the community, I'm the immediate past president of the HOA, current vice president of the HOA. We've been trying to get into the Stormwater Management District for the past year. We've put a lot of work into getting the properties, the community, the ponds up to code where the district can take them over. As evidenced by the signatures of the residents, we fully support and welcome our inclusion into the SWMD. And that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in favor that would like to testify in favor, please come forward. Good evening, sir. Good to see you.
Richard Matlack, 57 Covey Crossing in Quail's Nest. Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir. Proceed. I, along with Corey, fully support this. I've been involved with the program or project for a while, and we're looking forward to having the county maintain the areas that we've talked about, the ponds and the swale, and it's for the best of our community, for all homeowners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in favor? Anyone else in favor, please come forward. Anyone on the phone would like to testify in favor, please.
Any guests on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court, press *3 on your mobile device, mobile phone to raise your electronic hand or use the icon on your computer.
I see no hands raised on WebEx at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll allow those to come forward that are opposed to this. Anyone in the audience opposed to Resolution 3902, please come forward. Anyone opposed?
Similarly, any guests on WebEx that wish to address this matter in opposition, please press *3 on your mobile device or otherwise your electronic hand symbol.
No hands on WebEx.
Thank you. I see Jared Atkins from the Kent Conservation District out in the audience. Jared, is there anything that we want to tell us that we should know, or?
Jared Atkins, Kent Conservation District, 1679 South DuPont Highway.
Mr. Atkins, excuse me, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
We are certainly very much in favor of this community coming in. The residents have had kind of a long slug here with the original developer kind of abandoning them, other developers and builders coming in, but I think we're getting close to the finish line on this project. So like I said, this is a good time to bring them in while the ponds are in good order, and I think it's a good thing for the community.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, any commissioners have any further questions? If not, we'll close the public hearing on Resolution 3902. Commissioner Howell, your district, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we approve Resolution 3902 to extend the Kent County Stormwater Maintenance District pursuant to Chapter 52, Title 9 of the Delaware Code and Section 90.4.E 10, Chapter 187 of the Kent County Code, SWM-19-03, Quail's Nest.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Howell, second by Commissioner Sweeney to approve Resolution 3902. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, statements made by Commissioner Howell, Mr. Atkins, and no opposition.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, for reasons stated, and it's just the right thing to do.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for reasons stated. It's a great program. It'll save the homeowners money in the long run. So, yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals Resolution 3902 has been approved. Thank you, folks, for coming out. Okay, continuing our public hearings. The next item on the agenda is application C-2105, petition for conditional use approval. Falls under Commissioner Buxton.
I believe Ms. Kiefer will start us off.
Thank you, Commissioners. Application C-2105 is a conditional use application for dog grooming establishment. The site is 5.5 acres on the south side of Woodleytown Road, just east of Briarbush, west of Magnolia. It's zoned AC, agricultural conservation. It's used residentially. The Planning Commission took testimony on this application at their October 7th meeting, and at their October 14th business meeting voted unanimously to recommend conditional approval with the additional condition of sound attenuation being part of the building construction, as well as the landscape buffer that was proposed by the staff. So again, this comes with a recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Kiefer? Seeing none, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing on application C-2105. And we'll ask anyone in the audience that is in favor of this application to please come forward and give your name and address and tell us why you're in favor. Give us your name and address, please, and then we'll be sworn in.
I'm Adelheid Blackwood, and I live on 2118 Woodleytown Road.
That's in Magnolia?
Excuse me?
Magnolia?
Yes, in Magnolia.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Well, I have been a groomer for 26 years. I own Adel's Pooch Parlor in Rising Sun, on Rising Sun Road in Camden. And what I like to do is I like to move my business to my property. I've done everything, all the requirements that the Planning Commission asked me to do, and I'm okay with that. As you can see, I'm going to have some landscaping done on the left for my other neighbor, and I'm going to have a paved driveway for the customers to come in. Traffic-wise, one of my neighbors was really kind of concerned about that, but the amount of dogs that I'm doing is really not that much of a concern to me or to other neighbors. The customers, my opening hours are from 8:30 to 5. So not everybody's coming in right at 8:30. They all drip in from 8:30, and then I want all my dogs to be in by 10 o'clock in the morning. So maybe 2, 3 customers maybe at the same time coming in because they have to go to work, and others, they just come in whenever, before 10 o'clock. So to me, I don't think that's much of a concern traffic-wise, because they just come in and drop the dogs off and they leave. There will be no dogs overnight. Absolutely not. I've been grooming for 26 years. I never had a dog overnight. Dogs being outside my building, no. I've been working hard on these dogs to keep them clean, so I do not want them to go outside and dig holes and get all dirty. And for safety purposes, the same thing. You have diggers, dogs that like to jump over fences or whatever. So no, they will stay in the building till the owners come and pick the dog up. And it's going to be a pole building. So it's not going to be like a big fancy business with street lights and neon lights. No, it's because I live in the country. So it's just going to be a nice pole building with a little sign in the grass saying, Adel's Pooch Parlor. It's not like a big advertisement that you might just drive by, you won't even see me. So, and the pole building will be the same as the rest of my property. I like to match, the barn that I have already and my house. And so it's not going to be like a place like, wow, it's just, no, it's going to look very nice.
Any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Angel?
Yeah, I have 2. How many dogs will be housed while you're grooming?
It's usually about 10 to 12, 15 dogs maybe, and then maybe a little bit more around the holidays. But no, that's all I want to do. I'm not going to do a lot of dogs. That means a lot more people, a lot more traffic, and that's just what I like to do.
The hours you said are 8 to 5?
8:30 to 5.
8:30. So people that are dropping their dogs off don't get off till 5. Is that going to be enough time for them to come pick up that many dogs at 5 o'clock?
Oh, yeah, it gives me enough time, yeah.
Not you. I'm talking about the people getting off work to come get their dogs.
Well, yeah, usually they are off like 4:30, and then they are there at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Maston?
Do you have anybody who helps you with your grooming, or just yourself?
I have my daughter helping me. Yes.
Thank you.
She's been a groomer for a long time, too.
Other questions? Commissioner Sweeney?
Thanks. Hi, Mrs. Blackwood.
Hi.
I have a question for Sarah. If Sarah could step up to the mic. So, Sarah, one of the conditions was that there shall be no kennels on this property. What is the definition of a kennel?
The zoning code definition of a kennel is the keeping of more than 4 dogs in general, and for the conditional use of a kennel, it's very clear it's overnight stay.
Overnight stay.
And for groomers, there's a clear condition there shall be no overnight stay.
So the overnight stay is the key word for the conditional use.
Yeah.
So because she might have rooms where she keeps the dogs in her pole barn, that's not necessarily kennel because there's no overnight stays.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Angel?
You said you're moving it from Rising Sun. Is this an upgrade from what you're doing now? You have the same amount of space for your animals, or are you increasing the size where you want to go?
No, I'm going to have the same size. It's going to be a 30 by 50 pole building, and I don't want it any bigger. And this is just the perfect size. And I just like to upgrade it and just to my house.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Don't see any. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to testify in favor of this application? Anyone else in the audience that would like to testify in favor? Please come forward.
If we have anyone on WebEx who wishes to address Levy Court in favor of this application, press *3 on your mobile device or the raise hand icon.
I see no hands raised on WebEx.
Thank you. Now, anyone in opposition to application C2105, it's your opportunity to come forward and tell us why. Please come forward. And please give us your name and address and be sworn or affirmed.
My name is Justin Downen. I live at 2112 Woodleytown Road, Magnolia, Delaware, 19962.
Mr. Downen, do you swear or affirm, sir, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I understand the Planning Commission approved this. However, I would ask you to take a fresh look at it, as I don't believe they had all of the information. So it's my goal tonight, while respecting your time, to make sure you do have all of the information. I'll start by way of history. My wife and I purchased the property next to the applicants in 2014. We lived there with our 3 children. We have a 4-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old son, and a 10-year-old son. Approximately a year after we purchased our property, the applicant purchased her property. When I bought our home, I did not believe this would potentially result in a business being next door. I thought the zoning prohibited it, and I would not have purchased it if I thought that, after living there for 7 years and having 2 kids there, that we would be dealing with a dog business using our shared drive and within a stone's throw from our front door. I would like to show you some photos just so you understand we have a very unique property because a widow broke off 1.7 acres years ago to give to her granddaughter so she could live there next door and take care of her. Our property is we're right on top of each other with nothing on the boundary. Would you be willing to look at these photos of the property if I pass them along? There are 2 photos, just so you can kind of see the proximity of my residence to the applicant's residence. This matter that we're discussing tonight has essentially been going on for 6 years. When the applicant bought her property, on the first week that she owned the property, she came next door and she said, I purchased this property with the intention of putting a dog kennel here. And I said to her, I understand, why you'd want to do that. I understand your business. I understand you're a dog groomer. I said, I don't want to live next to a dog kennel. And I just said reasonable stuff, just the noise, loss of privacy, loss of property value. And I said it in the nicest way. I knew how to say it. I said, it's not personal. I don't want to crush your dreams, but I think a dog kennel would be a very bad thing for my family. So for 6 years, I've dealt with open hostility because I said I would oppose a dog kennel on that property, not a dog grooming business, a dog kennel. I've done everything I could to try to mend fences. I have great relationships with my other neighbors. I try to have the same with this neighbor. When her horses are out, I help her get them in. When her blind dog is in the road, I scoop it up and put it on her front porch. Give her chickens and vegetables. My wife gets along very well with her. This is not personal for me. This is about my children and about my property value and about our privacy. So what happened was when she decided she couldn't get a dog kennel zone, she changed tactics and she said this is going to be a dog grooming business. She approached me in August and she said, I want to show you where I'm going to put this building. She had flags in the ground. She said, the county's already approved it. She says, DelDOT has already approved the driveway and all the neighbors are in agreement. Now, I knew all 3 of those things were not true, but I just let her talk. And the only thing I said is, I understand why you would want to have your business here. And I do understand why she would want to have her business here. Her business is 3.5 minutes away. It's a 3.5-minute drive in Rising Sun, and the neighboring business is for sale. If she wants to expand, she can buy the neighboring property in Rising Sun and expand her business. But I understand why she would like to work from home, and I don't fault her for that. But when she explained it to me, saying county had approved it, DelDOT had approved the driveway, and all neighbors were in agreement, I just let her talk. She said, I don't want to board dogs, but my daughter does. And my daughter, I hope, will one day own this property. I have a lot of concerns about any business, dog kennel, dog grooming. I don't want the traffic. I don't want the loss of privacy. I don't want the loss of property value. This would be very good for her. Unfortunately, it would come at a very steep price for my family. It would be a wealth transfer. You would be giving her the opportunity to sell her business in Rising Sun, as she stated, and put a pole barn on her building, and you would decrease my property value and my privacy and our quality of life. We have a shared driveway. We have a shared driveway because DelDOT said it is very dangerous where we live. It is. There's no shoulder. I've lived there for 7 years, and I've had my mailbox knocked down at least 4 times. One neighbor wrote a letter and said, I've lived there for 5 years, and I've had my mailbox knocked down 5 times. DelDOT would not allow the person who built my home to build a driveway because of how dangerous it was. That's why we have a shared driveway, and I do not believe DelDOT will probably give her a driveway. That means our shared driveway will become her business drive if you approve this. I have on my phone video of traffic at 5 p.m. on a Saturday evening when traffic is its lightest. All you have to do is take one look at the video on the phone in my pocket, and you'll see why people looking up dog groomers on Google, driving there with no idea where they're going, it could be a problem. I don't even like to drive in there from a certain direction because I'm afraid a person driving behind me at 60 miles an hour looking on their phone may rear end me as I try to make a left-hand turn to my drive. So I purposely try to avoid Woodleytown Road so I can make a right turn into my drive. I believe there will be car accidents there if this is approved. I would ask you to at least look at it before you approve a business there. She said in the Planning Commission she has 12 customers a day on the high end. Today she said up to 15. My experience is she will say whatever she needs to say to get this approved. So let's just assume it's at least 15 customers a day. So you have 15 trips in, 15 trips out. That's 30 in and outs on Woodleytown Road from our shared drive or the adjacent driveway. So I think the traffic is a very serious issue, but I'm going to speak to my family's issue. And essentially, if you look at those pictures, you understand some of my concerns. Now, much of this, I would say, is a workaround. Like I said, she wanted a dog kennel. She decided she couldn't get it, so she's going to do a dog grooming business, even though she says her daughter, who will take over the business, wants to board dogs. I don't know what that means. This is what I think it means. I think it means that with all her customers, when they go away on vacation or for the weekend, they will say, Adel, can you watch my dog? And she'll probably say yes. And then they'll give her a tip or they'll pay her some other way. But there's no way for this to be monitored. I can't be dog police. I can't call, who do I call 5 years into this when there's barking dogs next door? Or when my dog is constantly barking at 15 dogs a day coming in and out of there? Or who do I call when people bring their dogs in off leash and they run into the yard and my kids are playing, out there? So I think my concerns are reasonable. I've tried to give you a quick overview, but just to go by the numbers so I don't miss anything. Totally new to this process, didn't want to be here. When she approached me in August and she told me what was going on, county had approved it, DelDOT had approved the driveway, all neighbors in agreement. I said, man, we've spent 6 years trying to repair a relationship. I really don't want to oppose this publicly. Maybe DelDOT just won't approve the driveway and it'll go away. That was my hope. And then I came in to the planning office the next day and found out she had not even applied for the permit at the conditional use at that point. So then I'm thinking, well, maybe this just won't happen. And that would be great because I don't want to oppose this. Can anyone tell me, does anyone know if DelDOT has approved this driveway? Does that have any bearing on this outcome? Is it possible you guys would approve this and DelDOT would say, you can't put a driveway in here and now my shared driveway would become a business drive?
Ms. Kiefer, would you like to speak to that, please?
DelDOT was certainly notified of the application. They did not provide comment. Provided this is approved, when we get to the building permit stage, at that point, DelDOT would have to sign off. It's possible they could require modifications to the entrance, but they've made no comments so far.
I do know you have a lot of important business. I know you guys deal with many of these issues. and I don't want to belabor this, but it is very important because this has been a very good place for us to raise our kids for 7 years, and I'm very confident that life is going to change if this business is put in there. One reason is because we're not even addressing, really what's going on. Her proposal is to put a business building by the road. Planning committee looked at this and they said, well, we'll have her put some bushes around the building by the road. That will mitigate the neighbors' concerns. I would have liked to known what the planning commission decided and their logic. I tried to call in to the meeting. I was out of state for work. Call-in line doesn't work. Every time you call in, it says host has not started this meeting, and it's not a new problem. I know it happened in the week before when I was in attendance. So I don't know why the planning commission decided as they did, but I know one thing. They said, we'll just have her put bushes around the building by the road and then we're all good. But we're not all good. She's going to work out of her home. No person who lives on the property would spend 40, 50 hours a week only in the building by the road. She's going to do what every reasonable person would do. She's going to spend a good amount of time in her home, which is right next to my house. Cars are going to do like they've done for the past 6 years. They're going to drive up and they're going to ring her doorbell and she's going to come out and they're going to talk about dogs and they're going to do business. So there will be a lot of traffic in the building she wants to build directly in front of my house by the road. But there will also be a lot of people coming and ringing her doorbell and seeing her and talking to her at her house. So, I hope this will not be approved for a number of reasons. If you do approve it, I hope you will require her to put trees along the property line to divide our properties so that when she does do business at her front door, that it doesn't involve my family. And there's some specific ways that I would suggest that those trees, mature trees, be planted and made sure that it accomplished the purpose. I spoke a little bit about loss of privacy. We have a shared driveway. Her customers will be coming in. They'll be watching us play in the pool. They'll be watching us ride our bikes on the driveway. They'll be watching us play in the front yard. I know a lot of people, this would seem ridiculous. Anybody who's had kids, I think, can relate. I probably have a slightly different viewpoint. I've been in law enforcement for over 10 and a half years. I deal with some of the worst people in society, pedophiles, serial killers, some real sick people. And every time we arrest them, the story's always the same. He seemed like the nicest guy. So I'm sure if you were to talk to the applicant, she would say, all my customers are great. And I'm sure most of them are. Probably 99% of them are great. The idea that at least 60 customers a week are going to drive in, park, watch my property, stare at my kids play in the yard while I'm away for work, it's not what I had in mind when I bought the property, and I don't think that any parent should have such a radical change simply so someone can work from home when they live 3.5 minutes from their business. So loss of privacy, the welfare of my children, our quality of life as we raise our family, that is top of my list. That's why I'm here tonight. I would let her have her way without opposition if there was anything more to it. I do think it's fair to mention the loss of property value. There's no way to quantify it. I mean, will someone want to buy my home as much when there's a business next door as the way it is now? Absolutely not. If you just drove into my house one time, you'd see we have a very nice property with lots of privacy, and that's going to go away if her request is approved and her business gets put there, and all that traffic is in and out of there every single day of our lives. So I'm going to lose property value. I would guess it's at least $50,000, but again, there's no way to quantify that. It's all what one person's willing to pay for it. Reduction in quality of life. My wife and I, we homeschool our 3 children. We're there a lot. We're there more than most people. And I often work nights. That means that oftentimes my time with my family, when I'm working nights and weekends, it's during the weekdays. So the fact that she's going to have constant traffic Monday through Friday, that's going to take away a lot what we do with our children in our yard, playing sports, playing with our animals. I mentioned the traffic issues, and I would hope before you approve this that you would take that seriously. As far as the lack of need, I mean, I did a little bit of research because this is my first time. I went to a meeting that you guys had on 9/28/21 just to see the process. I wanted to see how this would play out. And Commissioner Buxton made a comment at minute 55 of that meeting on 9/28. And we're not comparing apples to apples because he said, and I quote, a home-based occupation in a neighborhood needs to fit in a way it's almost unnoticeable. So this is not a neighborhood, but he compared that to a place off on a backcountry road. He said, I'm not talking about some place off on a backcountry road or something to that effect. So this is somewhere in the middle because we have a bunch of houses around. We have a bunch of brand new houses, very expensive, that were built right in eye view of where she wants this business. And so I think the standard applies. Is this business going to go in there and be virtually unnoticeable? Because of the way our properties were developed, she's putting this directly in front of my house. When I look out my front window, my house is not facing the road. If you look at the map, my house is not facing the road at a 90-degree angle. It's actually facing where she wants to put the building and the parking lot. So as you look out my front window, I have a nice big front window. As I sit there with my family, I'll be staring out my big front window looking at her pole barn and her parking lot and her customers coming and going. And when we're in our front driveway in our little kiddie pool, we'll be waving at our customers as they come and go. So this is the impact on myself and my family. Again, the dog kennel, there'd be no way to control it. In 10 years, if her daughter does what she says her daughter wants to do, and she told me in her front yard her daughter wants to board dogs, I don't know how that will be stopped. I think it'll be an easy workaround from their perspective. There's some extenuating circumstances that I'll just mention before I go. First of all, on the very first time we met, the first week she moved in 6 years ago, when she said, I moved here to buy this property to build a dog kennel, I explained to her some of the things I like to do and why I might not be able to do them on this property. So I explained to her I shoot a lot, I give a lot of shooting lessons. She told me I'm terrified of guns. I would never want guns around my children. For the entire time we've been neighbors, I've never shot one firearm on my property. I've researched the regulations. I've looked at the standoff. I could shoot on the back of my property and be within code. I've never fired a firearm. I drive long distances to train others out of respect for her and my other neighbors. So essentially, I'm just asking the same kind of respect. This is not personal. I don't want to crush her dreams. I want the same kind of respect. And the concerns with the business next door is my father ran a business for many years. Things don't always go right. When you got a business, sometimes things go wrong. I have certain neighbors and certain people I know that have a business next door. I would not be that concerned about things going wrong. Shortly after my neighbor moved in, she decided to build a fence, which is great. And when I've built fences, I've talked to my neighbors. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a fence here. Do you want to come look at it? Make sure we're on the same sheet of music. Don't want there to be any confusion, any problems. Because she was mad, I told her that I would oppose a dog kennel. She didn't do that. She didn't check what was in the ground. She didn't talk to me. She just started dropping fence posts. She put a fence post straight through my drainage line that pumps the water out of my basement. Now, I wasn't immediately aware of this, and this may sound like a red herring. I just ask you to bear with me. Soon I found out why I had water in my basement and all around my foundation. And when I brought it to her attention, I have a picture right here. I'm happy to show it to you. I said, I didn't ask her for money. I didn't ask her for a new sump pump. I didn't ask her for damages. I just said, just so you know, you drove a fence post, through my drainage line. And she said, no, I didn't. She said, all that water standing out there on the property line, she said, there's a natural spring out there. So my concerns is when you have a business next door and things go wrong and you can't deal with your neighbor and your neighbor is openly hostile and you're standing there. I mean, I have 3 pictures here that show a fence post driven through my drainage line that made water back up in my basement. Never once did she offer to pay for it. Never once did she even say sorry. She said it didn't happen. She said there's a natural spring out in the backyard causing all that standing water. So that's the concern with her business. I don't think it'll go well. And I don't think, since we lived there first and we established our family there, and she bought her business, she bought her property to build a business there, her words, I think that because her property has grown in value so much, she's told me with the housing boom, her property's worth $500,000. I think it's fair that she sell her property, take her profit, and buy a property that's more suitable for a home business. If that's her dream, to work from home, I do not think it's fair to ask us to give up the good thing that we have so that she can save a 3.5-minute drive from Rising Sun. But I understand you might not see it my way. And so if you do decide to give her her request, I would ask that a mediator be involved, if that's even a thing, because I do not think trees on the property line will probably go well or the way intended without a mediator. I'd like her to pay for the mediator. I'd like mature trees to be planted on the property line. There's diseased trees on our property line. I have a bill in this folder for $800. I made every effort to try to save them, even though I was told they were goners. So I paid the money trying to save these trees so we'd have some type of a barrier. So if she were to remove the dead trees and plant all new trees along the property line with an irrigation line and plant them on her side of the property line and not straight through the middle of our shared walnut grove, which is also in pictures if you wish to see them. My point is there's a smart way to plant trees on our property line, and there's a silly way. And if you plant them the wrong place, they're probably not going to grow. But if you choose to grant her request, I would just ask that you require that some of the money that she is going to profit off this deal from the sale of her business and the building of a much less expensive building on her property, she takes some of that cost savings, some of that profit, and she put it into building a suitable barrier between our two properties so that we are not so adversely affected by her new business. And I have pictures that I will leave, and if you look at them, great, and if you don't, I completely understand. And I have a picture of the trees that are between myself and my other two neighbors that are great. They make for great quality of life, and if something like that was accomplished, it would probably mitigate a lot, not all of, but many of my concerns, and she'd probably be happier too.
Mr. President, I have a couple of things, comments to make, some statements. Ms. Kiefer, I'm probably going to have Ms. Blackwood return to the podium in just a few minutes. Here's what we're not going to do. We're going to deal with what's transpired and what's been said. We're not going to get back into anything that relates to things regarding individual feelings about each other and circumstances that led up to those feelings. It's not relevant to our decision tonight. We're going to stay focused, at least I am, on the application, its merits, its conditional merits, and what we can do to have it blend into the community. Before I do that, I would certainly like, because I've gotten a little ahead of myself, we haven't closed the hearing, there may be others in opposition. I would certainly like to hear their comments first, if there are any. So,
at this time, is anyone else in the audience opposed to this application? Is anyone else opposed? If you are, please come forward and give your name and address.
If we have any guests on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court on this matter in opposition, please press *3 on your mobile phone or the raise hand icon on your computer.
I see no hands on WebEx at this time.
There
are two letters. Do you have the letters?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I appreciate your time.
Commissioner Angel.
Thank you. Ms. Kiefer, is there another place that the building could be placed on that property since it's 5.5 acres?
There's no reason it couldn't be placed elsewhere on the property. My presumption, and certainly the applicant could confirm, is that the preference would be at the front of the property to avoid customers traversing throughout. But there's no prohibition on it being someplace else.
Thank you.
Ms. Kiefer, a couple things. And again, Ms. Blackwood, I may ask her to attend Mr. Dunnan, correct? And I appreciate your testimony and understand your concerns as well as Ms. Blackwood's. One of those nights, obviously, where again, you're forced to make a decision where one side or the other is not going to be pleased with the outcome. It is what it is, so make the decision the best way you can. I'll speak to a couple things first. The 29th is uniquely different. I'm glad you brought it up. It's a home occupation. I remember the night. home occupations are designed to be inside of somewhat of a neighborhood, community, small in nature, where there's no exterior movement at all, no delivery of sorts, no signage, anything. That's what I was articulating that night. And I did articulate that it's not like it's outside of a neighborhood on a backcountry road, which unfortunately Woodleytown used to be many years ago. So it does lead itself to that. It is somewhat in the middle, but not. I think it's closer to being acceptable within reason. It's certainly not what we consider home occupation and how we rule on a home occupation.
Commissioner Buxton, before we go on, we need to close the public hearing. We haven't done that yet.
Yes, but I would like the opportunity to bring Ms. Blackwood back up. That's all.
Gotcha, okay.
Possibly Mr. Dunn. Close it if you'd like to, sure.
If there's going to be more testimony, I think we should keep it open.
Testimony, concession, understanding, whatever it needs to be. So there's my issue. But I wanted to explain first how I'm getting to the position that I am. I spoke to the others. We're not going to talk about that. When I look at the application and its merits, again, I believe that we need to understand within reason the rights of a property owner. As long as we can blend that action and address the concerns of those folks that are impacted by it, right? It's nothing new, except if you've just been here, then of course it is. That's why I'm going over this. In my mind, I was prepared to vote no if it was a kennel. It's not a kennel. It's boarding, right? If it ever turns into a kennel of operational standards which present itself overnight and others, then as it's listed in our minutes, the permit needs to be revoked. The authority to operate needs to be removed, and that's in here, and I am correct. Shared driveway. Not in favor of a shared driveway. We're not doing a shared driveway. If DelDOT comes back and says they want a shared driveway, then I'm out. If DelDOT says that they can have their own entrance, then I can continue on. But that needs to be a part of the consideration as it's explained to me now. Because the driveway as a shared manner isn't a fair ask. Moving it over, okay, now we're in a better position. The landscaping that you mentioned. We have landscaping that's been proposed by the RPC and agreed to by the applicant. What I'd like to understand, and the reason I'd probably bring Ms. Blackwood up, would be to better understand how we can address the buffering in its entirety so that you technically don't see, within reason, we're not going to force the place, the new facility. I visited your property. It's got a fairly substantive buffering right now, so I'm not sure how that would work, which is why I kept the meeting open. But what I would like to see is us work together. I am not in favor of some of these other specific demands about irrigation and others, full growth. But I would welcome landscaping that addresses the buffering concerns, the visual concern. All right? So let me ask you now, Ms. Kiefer, you're looking at me going, okay. At what point, how do I address that during this hearing, or do I leave that up to staff to work with the applicant to figure that out?
The two items you mentioned, effectively a condition that the entrance for the business be separate. I think you simply make that a condition of approval. In terms of the landscaping, our normal landscape buffers, the standard is 6 feet in height. And if you wanted to tonight, you could determine sort of the length that makes sense, if there's a logical cutoff based on the shape of the property to provide a buffer, and depth.
My understanding of the property as I remember it, quite a bit of landscaping that's already in place, visually speaking. So I'm not sure the extent how much more landscaping would need to be to prevent a sightline. Maybe we're talking closer to the, well, I guess what I'm looking for is to screen the actual, as best we can, the grooming place. So some way we need to work to determine how that works.
The impression I have from the testimony is that effectively the preference would be the entire sort of developed part of the site be screened. So maybe you take it from the front property line along that western edge until that 90-degree angle, right? And that potentially cuts off the developed part.
If you have to trade some of the front end, effectively the front end, which then would expose that to the street more so, and trade that by moving it backwards to create the impaired vision, I guess we'll call it, then that's fair. That's a fair request too.
To effectively create a continuous buffer from the front of the property line to where it turns.
Last one then, and then I think I'm done. If there's 12 animals all being dropped off at the same time, that can be a concern. Is there a way to require a staggering of the animals?
You can certainly request it.
Okay. I'm going to call you.
The question is enforcement. If you were to require, no more than 3 customers at a time, enforcement just becomes a bit more difficult.
Right. So, Ms. Blackwood, would you like to come back up to the podium? So the comments that I made, one of them was no to kennel, that was already stated. Shared driveway, I want to see that, but you're okay with that. You expect to have your own driveway. But then we get down to the last two. You heard about the landscaping, working with staff to enhance the buffering to minimize any type of visual on Mr. Downan's property. Not out on the driveway, not the shared driveway, but on their essentially where he maybe cuts grass, for lack of a better word. You're okay with that too?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
but may I say that I did my legwork before I went to the Kent County, and I did go to Del Dot, and I do have a second driveway.
Fair enough. So we're good.
I just have to widen it. That's what they told me to do.
You're fine. As long as
no shared driveway. I would not want to have that done.
We're good. So then speak to the last one, because if look, I live right there. I live right there. I get hit, well, no, I couldn't. I could play a couple golf holes and get there. So I'm in country fields. Doesn't matter. I travel Woodley Town a lot. It isn't a fun road. I get it. But it's not a fun road, period. I need to manage that and still enable you to do your rights within reason as a property owner. You said 12 to 15 dogs. Do they all show up at 7:30 and get dropped off?
Never.
So
I've been grooming for 26 years. The most that come in might be 3 customers.
Yeah.
Where I am right now, it's so small.
Yeah.
I cannot even have 12 people coming, and they don't come all at the same time.
And so here, in your defense, off every single day, right? Travel that road at about that time. And that's one heck of a road, the Rising Sun Lake. So I think within reason we can do this. So I'm prepared to close the meeting, but I'll leave it up to you guys in conversation.
Commissioner Masson.
Just one question. When people bring their dogs to your facility today, do you require them to be on a leash when they're picked up and a leash when they're returned?
Absolutely. I will not have them walking loose.
Okay.
No,
Thank you.
they all have them on leashes, yes.
Mr. Angel.
Thank you. I see it's recommended for R19 walls and 38-inch for the ceiling. Is it possible that you could put a thicker, like a false wall for noise reduction
Absolutely.
And then acoustic type tile that was absorb sound on the, towards the ceiling to bounce the barks or absorb it. 'Cause
Yes.
I know they do that for music and around schools and auditoriums, so I don't see why that should help with the barking anyway.
Yes. I'll do anything.
Just wanted to throw it out there to Commissioner Buxton.
In fairness, because we haven't really articulated anything exact, and I need you to understand what you're agreeing to. In the minutes, it was made clear that the structure had to be made of a sound absorption and sound enhanced, I guess, absorption enhanced construction, right? And so that's a 100% benefit to you in coexisting, because dogs, noise is going to be your biggest enemy if it's noticeable. We all hear the roosters. I don't know what happened to them. I didn't get rid of them. Somebody did, but they were right down the street.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where they went.
So when Commissioner Angel then asked for over and above what's been required, your understanding of what he's asking for and you're good with it?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just state that Commissioner Angels are in the approval process. If it is approved, I'll state that included are Commissioner Angel's suggestions. And that ought to work. Yes.
This is only for her, not her daughter. This is conditional use for just her. If something happens, the business goes away, or that person has to come back to us, correct?
Ms. Kiefer, would you like to step to the podium?
May I say something? My daughter is starting a family right now, and she is just working for me. She is not going to take over the business. So, and a kennel was a bad idea in the beginning, but he keeps reminding me of something that I don't want.
Concern, right, as the child working in the business, that I wouldn't want to take offense to that. So we're going to ask Ms. Kiefer to come up. What I would take offense to is if she took over the business and then started to operate outside the permitted use. But I wouldn't take offense to a daughter showing up and then taking over. But you need to explain how that works, if it does work. Kiefer, thank you.
Conditional uses go with the property. So regardless of who the owner is, the grooming establishment would be approved. But it, as we discussed earlier, it cannot be turned into a kennel. If somebody wanted a kennel, they'd have to go through the same process with a site plan, but ownership would not be impacted by the conditional use, or the conditional use wouldn't be impacted by ownership.
Ms. Kiefer, the reason I was asking that because of home ownership business, she is the business. So
it's not a home occupation.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for our closed public hearing?
So, in just a second, hold on one second, because I'll ask you to come to the podium in fairness to you. Ms. Blackwood, I think we're done. We're fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Downing, as long as it's relevant to the testimony, please.
I'll be brief. I would love it if you rejected this, but I can read the room. And so I just want to clarify where we are as far as the goal to develop some type of buffer. So what you saw were dead trees and a bunch of weeds. So I've left those to give us some standoff from the road, more privacy. But I've done my research. I had ProCut come out this summer, give me quotes on removing all those trees. Those trees that you saw that give us some buffer, they need to be removed. Our property line goes right between the trees. One surveyor would probably put on one side, another on the other side, and one right through the middle. I'm sure she would love me to remove them. The bottom line is when there's no business next door, I have lots of options. I can remove the trees, not remove the trees. I can plant baby trees. When I said mature trees, I'm a reasonable person. I'm not expecting her to put in a whole row of, completely mature trees. My point was I would hope that in the requirements, if you choose to approve her, she's not planting trees that will be useful in 10 years, that they're somewhat semi-mature trees. The reason I came up here is it's going to cost someone about $3,000 to remove the dead trees that are providing the only buffer right now. Those need to then be replaced with living trees. I hadn't quite decided how I was going to do it before it was determined there was going to be a business there. if there's going to be a business there, it becomes a more pressing issue and it needs to be done a certain way. So my proposal would be, because the trees are on the property line, she stands to benefit from this approval. I stand to lose something in property value. She should be responsible for removing the dead trees, and she likes to beautify her property, and she does a very good job of beautifying her property. She will probably be more thrilled about the dead trees gone than me. She's been after me for years to do something about them because they sit right on the property line, and I just hadn't chosen to spend the money. And she has people that help her that could do them for very little money. So my request is that she removes the dead trees and plants new trees on the entire property line from the road all the way back to where horse pasture starts. That will separate our properties. It'll beautify both properties. And I don't know what it costs to plant trees that are somewhat useful or any type of barrier, but that is essentially my request in two parts. She removes the dead trees and she plants a useful buffer. And the reason I mentioned irrigation is it just has to be successful. And there is a stand of walnut trees on our property. So if somebody plants through that, it probably won't be successful. They'll probably die. So there needs to be some thought and maybe even mediation on where those trees are planted so that it's not just a bunch of dead trees. Thank you.
So, and I appreciate, you're good. Thank you very much for your time. We're talking now, right? We're trying to work through this. So what I need to understand, and maybe not decided tonight, but needs to be decided, obviously, trees are tricky. And the reason trees are tricky is because where they're actually planted and then where they drift over into becomes, do you want to explain how the trees work when it comes to property lines? Because they're a challenge. But as you're going up there, let's see if I'm right on this one. My request would be, if it's determined that they are dead and they are hers, the applicants, and they are required for buffering, we're using those for buffering, then yes, we'd expect those to be replaced. I don't think we can seek to ask the applicant to deal with dead trees that possibly are yours. So talk to me about borderline trees.
This is unusual. If the property line indeed sort of goes through that stand of trees, I actually would yield to the county attorney, because it's not a question of a tree being on one property but overhanging another. It looks as if possibly the properties share those trees. So in terms of responsibility, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that.
I would say that you could impose a condition relating to dead trees and or the introduction of new trees to the extent they're on the applicant's property. It would be limited to that.
And I think it's important, it's valuable. It needs to, as best we can, address the concerns of your sightline. So that's what our goal is. I would argue against, if we're running trees all the way down past the actual residence, the home, that's a challenge for me. I don't know if that's our goal, that's solving a disagreement between neighbors versus shielding the actual business. So I would rather spend the time and energy and money shielding the business properly, if that makes sense. So here's where I'm going with the trees, and then I think we can be just about done.
Commissioner Buxton, can I close the public hearing?
Oh, sure.
Public hearing is now closed. Commissioner Buxton.
That's the part where I move towards a approval or denial recommendation. We've got quite a bit going on. We've articulated some of the thoughts. I think we've picked up on those. So a failure to mention it doesn't necessarily mean I don't want it included. I think I've articulated that. I will make a motion that we conditionally approve this application. I'll make that motion based on the comments that I explained earlier, that I do believe that within reason, property rights should be honored as long as we can address as best we can concerns of the neighbors. I think that we can do that in this situation as best we can by addressing the clear delineation between overnight kennel and grooming, which we have done, by addressing the issue of the driveway, by articulating our thoughts and concerns about landscaping, by clearly mentioning the requirement to have sound mitigation inside the actual kennel itself, how the dogs are handled moving in and out of this residence. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last one. So I think that might be within reason. The staggering, we had testimony about the fact that no, we're not doing 15 dogs in the morning, which I was amazed. That was going to be pretty impressive. So I think with that, that's my motion for conditional approval. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Buxton, second by Commissioner Maston. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, this time we'll have roll call.
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Buxton.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, per my motion, reason stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, based on staff recommendations and RPC recommendation.
Mr. Howell?
No, because when I initially read over this section here, it looked like a no-brainer, you know, easy. But then after hearing all these comments, we have bounced all over the place. And this is not the kind of smooth transaction I want to vote for. We have gone from live dogs to dead trees. One of the longest motions I've ever heard in my life. I don't know. To me, it's just clear as mud, and I vote no.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for reasons stated in Commissioner Buxton's negotiations and trying to mediate the situation. Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you. Roll call reveals application C2105 has been approved. Okay. Next item, petitions to amend comprehensive plan map and zoning map. Ordinance LC 21-16. Mrs. Maston, you're up.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Mrs. Kiefer's here.
Ordinance LC 2116 is a petition to amend the zoning map. The site is just over 6 acres off the southbound side of Route 1, south of Big Oak Road, just south of Smyrna. This is adjacent to the recently approved NKS project. It's currently designated as AC, Agricultural Conservation. The proposal is to rezone to BG, General Business. It is inside the growth zone. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony on this application at their October 7th hearing, and at their October 14th business meeting, voted unanimously to recommend approval, citing it is indeed compliant with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, and it is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area. So again, it comes with a unanimous recommendation for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ms. Kiefer, before you leave, the entrance to this property, previously it was landlocked other than a right-of-way to what's it, Big Woods Road or anyhow, has that been resolved? Is the property going to enter the NKS property now?
There isn't a development plan at this point, so we've not seen where an entrance might be. It's not out of the realm of possibility that it would attach to the existing NKS. All of that would be resolved if there's ultimately a development plan for it.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? Seeing none, at this time we open the public hearing on ordinance LC 21-16 and ask anyone who may be here in favor to please come forward and offer testimony.
Good evening. Mike Ryman with Becker Morgan Group, 309 South Governors Avenue, Dover, Delaware.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm here tonight representing the applicant for this rezoning. Let's see if I can work this thing. Perfect. So as Ms. Kiefer stated, the property about 6.2 acres located here where the star is. You have Big Woods Road located to the north. The recently approved project of the NKS project is located just directly to the south. You might have seen it's now under construction, on target for its April opening and operation. Next to that, we have the Willis Chevrolet dealership, Kent Construction, located there, Route 13 and Route 1, just to kind of give you a sense of where we are located. The existing zoning, as Ms. Kiefer stated, the existing zoning is AC, shown in green. The NKS site is zone BG, along with a number of other adjacent properties. We have light industrial just directly adjacent to our west, and then an RM, high-density residential, just directly to the north. The standard of review for rezoning, which we're going to touch on each of these tonight, are to is there a change in character of the neighborhood? Are we in compliance with the comprehensive plan? Are there adequate public facilities? And are we compatible with surrounding communities? And we believe we meet all of these. I'm going to go through each of those. As Ms. Kiefer stated, the project is located in the growth zone. You can see the star there with the growth zone outlined in the green. The request is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Both the 2008 and the 2018 comprehensive plan call for this area to be commercial, highway commercial specifically, identified on map 7C, which specifically states area generally located in and around areas of existing large-scale commercial or roadways. This project is certainly located next to large-scale commercial with Willis Chevrolet NKS, directly adjacent to Route 1 and in close proximity to Route 13, so we do believe it is compliant with both comprehensive plans. Change in character. There's obviously, with the NKS project being constructed, there has been a change in character. In addition to that, there are improvements that are happening to Big Woods Road that were a function of that project. That road is being widened and improved. You may recall those discussions when that project came before you. In addition to that, a signal is being installed at the intersection of Big Woods Road and Route 13. That was something that was very important for that project, and you may recall that as well. There's a number of adjacent commercial uses that you can see also in the area. Adequate facilities, again, reiterating the infrastructure improvements that are happening with Big Woods Road and related to traffic and the roadways. The project is also located in the sanitary sewer district. You can see that highlighted in the shaded green. And we do have access to public water as well. So we do have adequate facilities to serve the parcel. Compatibility with surrounding communities. We think that the rezoning to BG is compatible. It's directly adjacent to BG, directly adjacent to light industrial, fronts on Route 1, and adjacent to high-density residential. So we do believe that the request is consistent with surrounding communities. And just to close, just to piggyback on Commissioner Pepper's question about access, maybe I'll go back and just touch on that briefly. If I can go back, it's not wanting me to. There we go. Okay, that probably works. So right now there is no current plan for the parcel. The parcel became available after NKS had initiated its project. We got word that it was on the market and became available. Being that the property is adjacent to NKS, they saw an opportunity to purchase the property and help maybe potential future growth. We don't have any plans at this time. In fact, you may recall that our parcel actually identified an area roughly right here for potential future growth there. But with the property becoming available, it made sense. The tower that's located on the property right now will be dismantled immediately. It's not going to continue its use, and NKS is not in the communications business, and so that tower will definitely be removed. As it relates to access to that parcel, there's currently a cross-access easement. It's a little bit hard to point from there, but right along this property line that exists that provides access to the parcel. As we don't have any plans, we believe obviously it would connect with the NKS site at such time we created those plans, but it's really too early to tell. At this point, there is an easement in place, and our intent is to continue the current NKS site to access the newly constructed road and light there at Big Woods Road and Route 13. And with that, I think I answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience in favor of ordinance LC 21-16, please come forward. Anyone else in favor, please come forward.
If anyone on WebEx wishes to address Levy Court on this matter in favor, please press star 3 on your phone or the raise hand icon.
I see no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience that is opposed to ordinance LC 21-16, please come forward. Anyone opposed?
Similarly, anyone on WebEx who wishes to address Levy Court in opposition to this measure, please press star 3 on your phone or the raise hand icon.
Again, no hands are raised on WebEx at this time.
Thank you. Any of the commissioners have any questions? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll turn ordinance LC 21-16 over to Mrs. Maston.
I motion to approve ordinance LC 21-16, an ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan map designation and the official zoning map of Kent County, Delaware, pursuant to the provisions of Kent County Code, Volume 2, Chapter 205 Zoning, Article 3, Section 205-8 and Section 205-9, and Article 27, Changes and Amendments effective December 1st, 2000 as amended. Reference application CZ 21-05, applicant owner NKS Distributors Incorporated / Capital Cities ABC Inc. Proposed zoning district BG, general business, area and location ID number 6.23 plus or minus acres located off the southbound side of Route 1, approximately 675 foot south of Big Oak Road and approximately 1,760 feet north of West Big Woods Road, south of Smyrna, DC 00028.00-02-08.02-000.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Masson, second by Commissioner Angel. Anyone have a question on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Maston, plus the RPC approval. Del Dot does not require TIS. It's in the growth zone and it's in our comp plan. Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. 7 yeas means ordinance LC 21-16 has been approved. Okay, next item on the agenda falls under Commissioner Sweeney, ordinance LC 21-17.
Ms. Kiefer, you're up.
Thank you. Ordinance LC 2117 is another rezoning request. The site is currently zoned RS1, primarily with some highway commercial BG. The proposal was to rezone the entire 30.9 acres to BG or general business. The site is 30.9 acres on the west side of Route 13, the north side of East Evans Road, east of Viola, inside the growth zone. The Regional Planning Commission took testimony on the application at their October 7th hearing, and at their October 14th business meeting, voted unanimously to recommend a modified approval that you can see on Exhibit E, which would leave 10 acres in RS1 and the remaining 20.9 in BG. The applicant at the RPC meeting had agreed to the compromise and stated his intention to actually subdivide the back portion of the property. So again, this comes with a recommendation for a modified approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Ms. Kiefer? Commissioner Sweeney?
Thank you, sir. So, Ms. Kiefer, that is the definition of a modified approval, correct? That's why it's not, that's the first time I've seen modified approval.
It tends to be rare in zoning, but it does happen where in this case, the rezoning isn't necessarily recommended by the comprehensive plan, but given the character of the area, some additional commercial zoning made some sense. The staff wasn't entirely persuaded it was practical to rezone the entire property. So we had suggested a different balance, and the compromise that happened at the Planning Commission is what's on Exhibit E. So modified zoning happens occasionally, but it is rare.
And the recommendation of staff that was made to the applicant, and the applicant was in agreement?
The applicant was not in agreement with the recommendation staff made. They, at the hearing, were in agreement to the compromise offered by the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you.
Certainly.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll ask anyone in favor of ordinance LC 21-17 to please come forward and give your name and address and be sworn or affirmed. Anyone in favor, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Ronnie Lloyd. Live at 1298 Alms House Road in Wyoming, Delaware.
Mr. Lloyd, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We bought this property off the Waters family, which I've known the Waters family a long while. They've been my neighbors. The property's probably been in an estate for 40 years. They're all wanting to settle it because they want to get it done with their kids before they pass on. Matter of fact, one of them, my neighbor lives right across the street from me, Sadie Swain, since I bought the property, has already passed away. I've been in the horse trailer business for probably 35 years. Started out in the horse and cattle business when I was a kid, probably 16 years old. I started buying cattle and hogs for Goldinger Brothers and Cheswold. I'm sure I don't know if any of you's ever heard of them, but I go way back in time. My family's been in the horse and business for generations in Delaware. My wife's family has been farmers in Delaware for generations and generations. Only thing I can tell you, we run a first-class operation. You go by my farm, you ain't gonna see a blade of grass out of the spot. I get people drive by, they say, how do you keep this place so immaculate? I said, I do it myself. We sell trailers all across the United States of America, from Florida to Canada, from here to the West Coast. We do a big business with the harness race people. We probably sell to probably 70% of the harness horse racing people in the United States of America. And really the facility that I want to put in for what the county was recommending first, and for the price that I have to get for this piece of property, it wasn't going to work for me. Because we're going to put in probably about a 12,000 to 15,000 square foot facility. We usually, in a normal time, we usually keep 200 to 300 trailers sitting on our lot at all times. So we have a pretty good sized business. We was going to go for the whole 31 acres, but I decided to leave 10 acres residential on the back side of it. Well, probably the Waters family might want lots for their kids, which I agree to do that in time if they ever want a lot for their children. When I bought this property from them, I told them there would not be no houses built on this property. And if I tell somebody, my word's my bond. That's the way I was raised. And pretty much that's all I got to say about the whole thing.
Any questions? Don't see any. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anyone else here in favor, please come forward. Anyone else in favor, please come forward.
Any guests on WebEx wish to address this matter in favor? *3 on your phone or the raise hand icon.
No hands raised on WebEx.
Thank you. At this time, is anyone in the audience opposed to ordinance LC 21-17? Anyone opposed, please come forward.
Similarly, anyone opposed on WebEx, *3 on your mobile phone or the raise hand icon on your computer will bring you into the room.
Again, no hands raised on WebEx.
Okay, seeing no one opposed at this time, we'll close the public hearing and turn the ordinance LC 21-17 over to Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve ordinance LC 21-17, an ordinance to amend the comprehensive plan map designation and the official zoning map of Kent County, Delaware, pursuant to the provisions of Kent County Code Volume 2, Chapter 205, Zoning, Article 3, Section 205-8, and Section 205-9, and Article 27, changes and amendments effective December 1st, 2000, as amended, based on the RPC recommended modified approval, staff's recommended modified approval, no public opposition, and the efforts by staff to come up with a compromise to accommodate the comprehensive plan.
Second motion.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Sweeney, second by Commissioner Angel. Any commissioners have any questions on that motion? Seeing none at this time, we'll ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes, reason stated by Commissioner Sweeney. Plus, in the RPC minutes, there was a Mr. Conacy that was talking about business and people and creating more jobs. I wanted to add that to it, too, as that's the economic chair for Kent County. Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, per staff and RPC recommendations.
Mr. Howell?
Yes, reasons stated.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, per my motion.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for all reasons stated, and as the applicant says, he runs a first-class operation, and that is the truth. So, yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 21-17 has been approved. Thank you, folks. So that closes the public hearings. We don't have any old business. We have new business. We have an introduction by Commissioner Angel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Introduction of ordinance LC 21-19, reapportionment of levy court districts, and ordinance repealing ordinance 11-20 and replacing those provisions by adopting the district boundaries proposed by the Redistricting Commission of Kent County, Delaware, with regard to the reapportionment of the levy court districts for public hearing on Tuesday, November 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. sharp.
Thank you. And next page, you have another introduction.
Introduction of ordinance LC 21-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 68 of the Kent County Code relating to holidays for public hearing November 23rd, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Mrs. Maston, you have an appointment to the Board of Adjustment?
Yes, I would like to appoint John Nichols to the Board of Adjustment for District 1.
Thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Was that Commissioner Howe? Yep. Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Maston to approve appointment to the Board of Adjustment, John Nichols, and second by Commissioner Howe. Any questions? Have roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Mr. John Nichols has been appointed to the Board of Adjustment. Okay, and we do have executive session tonight, I believe. Okay. Mr. Angel, items 1 and 2, please.
Move to go into executive session immediately following a business meeting for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for public funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation and personal matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004 B2, 4, and 9.
That's motion. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Masson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Item number 2.
Move to go in executive session immediately following the committee meetings of November 2nd, 2021 for preliminary discussion on site acquisition for publicly funded capital improvement, legal strategy session regarding collective bargaining or pending or potential litigation and personnel matters pursuant to 29 Del Code 10004 B2, 4, and 9.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Masson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mrs. Maston?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Item number 2 has been approved. Any information items? Commissioner Angel.
Thank you. I received a call today from the Professional Development Academy, the course that I took under Colin Powell last year, and they want to open it up again for a discussion. So I'm thinking about trying to get them to do a virtual at a committee meeting, just to kind of give you a heads up of what's going on. There's another strand that's taking place. They're trying to drum up business, of course. So I just wanted to let you know that took place this afternoon also.
Any other informational items? Any public comments?
I see no hands raised on WebEx at this time.
Any commissioners' comments? Mr. Sweeney.
Thanks, Mr. President. This past weekend, the county Parks and Rec department celebrated Make a Difference Day by cleaning up the playground at Capitol Park. And if you saw it beforehand and went by and saw it now, you wouldn't realize we made jokes about finding a playground inside that fenced-in area. It was scheduled for 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and by 11:15, we were taking pictures and walking away. So if you get a chance to ride by there in the day, you can see inside the fence, and between the Parks and Rec crew, which were absolutely fantastic, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from right there on Route 10, Dover Air Force Base, Representative Andrea Bennett and myself had it cleaned up in a little over 2 hours, and it looks fantastic, and we have some great plans for that park.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Angel.
Yes. Today, Commissioner Buxton, Commissioner Maston, and myself met with the DENREC people on solar panels, and we got enlightened on a whole different level of what we didn't know. Just to give you a heads up on that, and we'll probably having a discussion with that in the near future with you all. And then personally, I just want to thank you for the tribute for my father who passed away Friday. I welcome that, and for all your all conference for all your what you've done and said. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. Commissioner Buxton? Any commissioner comments? Seeing none, need a motion to adjourn?
Move into executive. So move, sir.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel and second by Commissioner Howell, was it? And all those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
We are adjourned to executive session, but will not be coming back.